The Brewhouse was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery. But the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com. Hello everyone and welcome to the Genesee Brewhouse. This is the Rochester Press Box, a special edition as it turns out. I'm Bill Pucker and is happy to welcome back for the first time since he left.
Who is this guy?
Full time.
Oh yeah.
John DiTullio, welcome back.
Pontius Pucko over here. I didn't know who you are. Pontius Pucko.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, come
So
on.
look, first episode of the second
like
set
an
of
Adonis,
300.
by the way.
You know, original cast, and Pat Duffy comes in and replaces you as a regular here. So this is historic, and we're just glad to have you back.
Call me today. I want to be called either Wally Pipp, Drew Bledsoe, or Trent Green.
There you go.
Right? Because he is Kurt Warner,
He
Drew
calls
Bledsoe,
himself-
and Lou Gehrig.
He calls himself DiTullio 2.0. Have you heard him say that?
Mike Catalana, welcome, co-hosting.
Good
now.
to be back.
Pat Duffy, who you got on?
Well, normally we do the jersey, but Stan Mikita passed away this week.
Yeah.
You know, a hockey legend. Most people know him as the namesake of Mikita's Donuts from Wayne's World, so we're wearing the Garth Algar goalie shirt today in honor of Stan Mikita.
And the trivia on the number I was interested in?
The first number ever retired, if I'm not mistaken, in the history of the Blackhawks
Yeah,
franchise.
it's great to be back. I missed you.
It's
too.
great to
I love
have
you
you
too, Billy.
Hey, let's look. We've had sports taking the high road.
Yeah.
Most recently, we're holding Urban Meyer to account for the behavior of his assistant coaches, and we have Roberto Osuna and the Astros players having a little trouble bringing him in. Are we expecting too much, or are they trying to deliver too much in the terms of the moral high ground
Ooh, the
here?
coaches, they should.
The coaches and the players.
When a player steps out of line, we don't blame the player. What do? We blame the coach, don't we? Especially at the college level. So if a coach steps out of line, absolutely you look at a guy who has known him his entire life, has he not? I'm talking about Urban Meyer. He sits up there and lies about it. I think we got to hold the coaches, especially sports. I think sports can set the example for the entire country on how we should handle domestic violence. And I think what Ohio State's doing, I think he's going to keep his job. The longer this goes on, I think he keeps his job. But the Houston Astros, why would you employ a guy who has been out of baseball for 75 games, and there's more to come? So you're bringing that cancer on your team already. I don't get it. I wouldn't do it. I'd have a policy: if you commit domestic violence, you're not on the club. Simple.
That's pretty harsh.
It is. Back to John's point about Urban Meyer. When you're in his position, it's the domestic violence issue is that issue. He did not commit that crime, but the cover-up worse than the crime. And Urban Meyer, at every level of that, I think handled it more and more poorly. And it's about this man as a leader. Also, this man who's making what, $8 million a year?
He still owed $40 million.
If you're going to take that money, you are responsible. Doesn't mean you can stop people from doing things, but you are supposed to be the leader of men, leader of that franchise, we'll say.
No, it's not leader of men, it's leader of children. Listen, that guy is the highest paid state employee in the state of Ohio, for goodness sake. And that man walks into the homes of 15, 16, and 17-year-old kids and looks at their mothers and fathers and says, not only am I going to take care of your son, not only am I going to make him a football player, but I'm going to make him the man that he needs to be to move forward. And then something like this happens and you throw your hands up and go, well, I didn't know how to deal with it? Don't look me in the face as a parent. Tell me you're going to raise my kid for me in 4 years, and then, oh, well, I don't know what to do now.
Well, forget the contract clause, but don't you think it's setting the bar pretty high to require the supervisor to be totally responsible for the people that work under him?
Yes, I agree with you, but that's not the case here. We have proof that Urban Meyer knew 3 years ago. It was in his home. His wife had pictures of it. Listen, if something's going on and a coach doesn't know about it, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But now that you lied about it and it's proven, right? Come on, man.
And you can't use the Paterno thing where I pass the buck to the people upstairs, which the Paterno supporters will say. Don't say you told your AD and then you left it with him. You can't. He works for you.
What was it like for you being Mr. Penn State, sort of having to relive the entire thing?
Very, very similar in the fact that Urban Meyer lies and then comes back and says, I told the people upstairs about it. And that's basically what it comes down to.
And yet, is it fair if I draw an analogy to what goes on in the White House now and passing fact checks and all the rest of this thing, that lying has become a way of life in this country?
Well, what has become? Lying's always been a way of life. Now we have a way to catch you in your lie. That's the difference.
Right, and the difference is if you want to get Urban Meyer out, you can fire him. There's certainly different mechanisms in place politically. You're not firing a political person. It's very different. And the way the fans of Ohio State came out and support him, and you got Ezekiel Elliott's father coming out and support him with his own issues in the NFL, supporting a coach for that.
It's typical for every Ohio State coach over the last 40 years has always left. It's been kind of low. Right?
Sounds like a Penn State guy talking.
This is Rochester Press Box.
By the way, I will say this, every time Urban Meyer talks, don't you feel you need to take a quick body shower over the last? Don't you think you need a quick body shower every time he talks? Even going back to his days at Florida. Just a quick one.
I think you made your point.
No sponge bath.
This is the Rochester Press Box on location from the Genesee Brewhouse. We talk Buffalo Bills next. The Press Box, brought to you in part by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP, C-O-M-P, today. Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brewhouse. We are on location, and this portion brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Buffalo Bills brought in a wide receiver. Should we expect anything out of Corey Coleman?
Here's what you should expect. More competition at that position. When you don't have talent, you don't know what you have outside, I guess, of Kelvin Benjamin, keep bringing players in. They got him on the cheap, 7th-round pick. Look, if any organization is going to screw people up, it's the Browns. That doesn't make Corey Coleman good. That means maybe it's not all on the player. Give him an opportunity, let him run down the field and see what happens. But you've got such an open competition at wide receiver. Why not bring him in?
Quick fall from grace for this guy, right?
Well,
just 2 years ago.
But it's Cleveland. They don't have a single first-round pick left over from the last 3 seasons. Everything that happens at Cleveland is a quick fall from grace. And if you're Brandon Beane, I do love the reaction, right? The two sides of everyone. Nobody in the middle is like, this is a good move. Let's see what happens. Either we're going to the Super Bowl and Corey Coleman's the MVP, or this is the worst move ever. It's a 7th-round pick for a guy that was a first-round pick, and you're not cutting anybody spectacular if you end up keeping him. Of course you make this move. It's a good move. Why not?
Low risk, high reward. Did they not fleece the Browns? Where the Browns smoking? 7th-round pick for a guy they used the 15th overall pick. You look at his numbers at Baylor.
It's not fleecing if he gets cut.
I don't think he's getting cut. I don't think he is. I think he can play if he's healthy. He's missed what? He's had a broken hand, the last 2 years?
He played 19 games in 2 seasons.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you said fleecing the Browns, I thought you were going to go back to 3rd-round pick for Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah. It's insane.
That is a fleecing.
That's a fleece. I mean, you think about it, and his number, when I watched him at Baylor, there's no question. Is he undersized? Yes. 5'11", but the guy can play, and he had huge numbers at Baylor. And I love when you always head scratch when you take a player from a losing team. Had you come from New England, I feel a little bit better. But the Browns are so dysfunctional. I love this move.
And the whole idea is, well, we didn't draft him, so we move on for him. Yeah. Again, I'll put my Eagles hat on for a second. Nelson Aguilar, drafted by Chip Kelly right around the same time, was a bust. I mean, 2nd year, total bust. They stuck with him. He worked at it. Bang, 3rd year, he hits. The guy's going to end up getting a huge contract. If you're the Browns and you lack talent, you don't give up on young talent still in a rookie deal. I think it's more about them than it says about Coleman.
Well, how about the day after they trade Coleman, the guy that was supposed to replace Coleman gets caught with weed. So now he's going to get a 4-game suspension. What are you doing? And then, first episode of Hard Knocks airs this week. By the way, speaking of fleecing the Browns, you watch Hugh Jackson do his thing.
He's so bad.
It makes perfect sense as to what's been going on. But then Jarvis Landry, the star wide receiver in Cleveland, who has a little bit of a work ethic issue, calls out the rest of the wide receiver room. What is going on?
Why is Des Bryant still out there?
He was a marginal player last year. He was marginal. No, he was a marginal player. Dallas has a terrible wide receiver situation now. They cut him loose, and even though you go ripping your owner, ripping your teammates, calling Sean Lee a snake.
Snake Lee.
I think
is that more important than the fact that maybe he's not as good as he was?
I think if he was the same player but wasn't causing issues, I think somebody would have brought him in already.
He gets no separation whatsoever. Number one. Number two, I don't think he can run anymore. Right? Number three, he's got a big mouth. Yeah. If it's Antonio Brown or Odell Beckham, you can take the big mouth. I can't take it when you can't play.
Well, but hold on.
And you're
I don't think he's any good.
If you take the big mouth away, he's signed immediately. It's what he did in the media that's keeping him from getting signed right now. Because listen, everyone's going to take a chance on a 6'5" guy that can go up and get a football, right? That's his play. He's going to go up and he's going to go get a ball. He can't get separation. He's not fast, but it's what he did that is keeping him from getting signed.
Yeah, and again, your career goes longer if you're a good guy.
He needs to go to a team that has an established quarterback and established head coach. Now, Green Bay would make some sense.
Yeah.
Green Bay, he can't go to a team that has a young quarterback and a young coach.
Right.
That would be cancer.
It was never considered by Buffalo. Never
No,
considered.
I don't think so.
Well, but Bean did address it. Somebody asked him, he said, we're not closing that door. He didn't say we're not looking at him.
Right. He hasn't closed the door on you
gotta
coming
go
in
to
at
a
once.
place
If he can help.
He's got to go to a team where he's a 2 or a 3rd option. He still thinks he's a number 1.
Yeah.
He's not.
This is the Rochester Press Box. We are at the Genesee Brew House, and this portion is brought to you by Connors and Ferris. Like it or not is next. Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back. This is Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. We are at the Brew House. Like it or not, hey, Johnny Manziel had a positively Nathan Peterman-like game in Montreal.
It was
It's a time to forget about him.
Well, no, not necessarily. I watched that entire game. I actually watch a lot of CFL football. Please don't judge me. I've been saying this for years, and I'll say it again. There are guys that are fit to play in the CFL, and guys that it's a different game. It's a completely different game. I know that Manziel isn't what everyone thought he was going to be, but I don't take that game on a week's worth of practice with a brand new team as he's done. You want to know who I really feel bad for? Rochesterian, Gates Chi-Lite graduate, UB grad, Ernest Jackson. He's a wide receiver for the Alouettes. He's carved out a really nice career, 10 years in the CFL. He finally gets a primetime international game with a superstar quarterback, and that's what his family got to watch, like a 40-point loss on ESPN2. But no, I don't think Manziel's done. I mean...
No, I mean, it's one game. It's one game. If he had a great game, I don't think we'd think he's on his way to the NFL, though some people might say that.
He hasn't played exposed, Manziel or Debo?
That's a good one.
Yeah,
well,
different reasons.
Probably Manziel, right? I mean, Tebow, I'm not expecting Tebow to carry the Mets or actually play for the Mets, right? Manziel hasn't played in 2 years, so I'm with Duffy. I'll cut him some slack because he hasn't played in 2 years.
And I will give him credit. Yeah. Everybody says, go to the CFL, give that a shot. Yeah, he's given it a shot. We'll cut him a break on one really bad game.
Johnny, like it or not, Carmelo Anthony in Houston.
I think he stinks. I think he's washed up. Doesn't rebound, doesn't play defense. He's an isolation player.
That's not what I
He's just a volume shooter. If he stays along the three-point line, I thought Cleveland could have used him last year for a guy who can just spot up and shoot. He does it. His shooting percentage was down. His rebounding was down. He never was a passer, but that was even down. I think he's washed up, but I think it's a good fit in Houston because he can just stand around on the three-point line while James Harden and Chris Paul dance with the ball, and they'll kick it out to him. That's all he is. He's a stand-up shooter right now. He can't post anybody.
The problem is he's not even a good three-point shooter. He's better at the worst shot in basketball, the 20-foot jumper. Yeah. And to John's point, he doesn't do anything else that makes you an efficient player in the NBA. And it's interesting. Vegas's line on Houston, how many wins this year? Dropped by, I think, 10. Dropped by 10 on a team that was that good. Now, they had a great year last year, but...
Why is the Olympics so different? I mean, he's a legendary Olympic player.
Seriously.
He's surrounded by superstars.
Why do you guys hate America?
Doesn't count.
That's my question. Why do you hate America?
Because seriously, he could play with four of the guys in the NBA and they would win.
Just like the Ryder Cup. I can't tell me Ryder Cup's Nicklaus won. Do you
but
know?
the difference
I know he's won 18 majors.
The difference in the Ryder Cup
it doesn't matter.
It's it's more overall competitive usually than this. In this case, and you're isolated in the Ryder Cup, just playing singles matches. Whereas in this,
be a Hall of Famer based on his Olympic
I'm
resume.
a Hall of Famer. Everybody's a Hall of Famer in the NBA.
you're a Hall of Famer.
This is the Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. We're at the Brew House. Unfinished Business is next.
Here is the MVP Experience Stat of the Week, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy. No appointment ever needed.
Came now to Eichel. He floated one.
Look at those guys, triumphing over the afternoon. Because he went on a Dunkin' run and got $2 snacks.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
The Dunkin' Run menu. Delicious $2 afternoon snacks.
Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box on location here from the Genesee Brew House, our 301st episode. 7 years into this, and it's nice to have John DiTullio and the regular guys back
Honestly,
here.
It's great to be back.
This has been a
Michigan.
lot of fun. This is Unfinished Business. Dunkin' Donuts brings it to you. American runs on Dunkin', and Pat starts.
We talked earlier, NHL legend Stan Mikita passes away earlier this week, 82 years old. And the fun story about Stan Mikita, the legend, is he invented the curved hockey stick. In the middle of a game, his stick got caught in the boards, it bent, he realized he could shoot harder and faster and higher, and he just went with it. Revolutionized the game of hockey that way. And up until that point, they had played hockey for 100 years with straight sticks, forever and ever. The reason I bring this up is the NFL's helmet rule, which you may have seen in the first couple of preseason games, is a disaster. They don't know how to enforce it, and they're doing that on purpose because there's going to be a change in NFL equipment. They're getting rid of the face mask or they're getting rid of the helmet. And to all of you people that are saying, that's impossible, we've played football this way forever and ever and ever and ever. There was a time where they played with a straight stick for 100 years in the NHL. There was a time where goalies didn't wear masks for 50 years playing professional hockey. And there's going to be a time 50 years from now where we look back and go, remember when NFL players wore helmets when they were playing? It makes perfect sense. You're not going to lead with your face. You're not going to have a risk of concussion. And the game is going to be more romantic. I promise you. Mark my words. Write it down for the 700th episode when we're talking about, well, where are they going to put the logos now? They're not wearing helmets.
Betting on that happening?
Yes, I'm confident of it. No?
I don't think it's that far-fetched. I really, it's a weapon. The helmet's
Compare
a weapon.
it to hockey, not the goalies, but the regular players, and especially when they wear cages. What happens when they wear cages? The sticks come up higher because everybody feels more protected.
It's going to be a disaster this year with the helmet rule. I think scoring will be up because a lot of penalties will be called.
Johnny, about one of our favorites.
Yeah, I moved here in Rochester in the late 1990s, so I never saw Billy Sharp play quarterback at Canandaigua. He would go on to play football at Syracuse. He was highly recruited, schools like Florida and some other southeastern schools. But the best quarterback I ever saw here in Section 5 was Jake Zenbeck of Aquinas. I saw him play in the 9th grade, and he looked like Tom Brady. We know what happened with Jake. He would win the state championship. He was named the State Player of the Year and signed to go to Penn State. Well, this week, sad news, Jake is not going to continue his football career at Penn State because of a shoulder injury. However, he will stay with the Nittany Lions. He'll get a medical scholarship, has a GPA of 3.7. My heart aches for Jake. He's a tremendous kid who comes from a tremendous family. His numbers at Aquinas were sick. 76 touchdowns, over 6,000 yards passing. Put Rochester in Section 5 maybe on the big-time Division I map. He did so much for Section 5 football here. I only wish he could have played it down at Penn State. He wasn't going to play this year, maybe even next year, but I thought in 2 years, if things had broken right, he could have competed for the starting job. My heart aches for Jake because I know it kills him that he can't play football, a game that he has played since the age of 8.
And you brought up Shar. The thing about both of them they were so pretty, weren't they? They just threw the perfect pass.
I thought you were talking about Shar's hair.
But how dysfunctional Syracuse was, they came in on late on his recruiting. That tells you why Scott Schaefer was fired. Bill O'Brien was one of the first coaches to recruit Jake Zenbeck.
And it also shows you why pick your colleges based on where you want to be, not just for the sport, because Jake has loved his time at Penn State.
He loves it. The players love him, and he's getting a great education. Free, mind you. Good for Jake.
All right, I'm going to stay with quarterbacks. I'm going to talk about Josh Allen, and he is the third stringer, and it appears that that's where the Bills have him now. Who knows if that will change, maybe to back up or whatever, but it does appear that what they're doing with Josh Allen is keeping him where they have him and letting one of the other guys start. That might be for a week, it might be for 6, it might be for the whole season. And watch, the head's going to explode here in a second because I'm going to tell you it has been part of the Bills' plan.
I'm coming over this
Here
table.
it is. It's part of the Bills' plan. And the reason they're doing that is because I believe when they drafted the kid, they knew he had things to work on. I believe they feel like he is down that line exactly what they thought he was going to be. And I believe they don't think there's any reason to rush him. Other people are going to say to you right away, oh, he's a bust. The kid hasn't made us a starting quarterback. They're not worried about that. It's about when he's ready, when he will play. And when that happens, he'll get an obvious chance to show he deserves the job. The plan is in place.
Opening day starter, who you got still?
If I'm picking it right now, I'm going to say McCarron is going to start.
still have
But it's either
McCarron?
going to be he or Peterman. It's not going to be Josh.
Look at you. Wow, what a guess here.
I'm saying it's McCarron.
Stick with Peterman.
Okay, and John, who's your
Schedule's
opening day
brutal. I
quarterback?
hope it's McCarron. They got to go to Minnesota and Green Bay in the first month. Let McCarron take his lumps, and then let Allen be the Messiah.
Oh, Mike's got a weather report. It's either going to rain or be sunny. One of those two.
The plan in place.
This is the Rochester Press Box. We're at the Genesee Brew House, and this portion was brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. John, great to have you back, man. Let's do this again.
I'm almost got emotional, but I'm okay. I'm okay. I rallied. I kept the emotions in check.
Great as always. And as always, thank you for joining us with the Rochester Press Box. We'll see you next week.